The conference room on the 14th floor had a view of the river, and I remember thinking my grandmother would have hated it. Glass, chrome, leather chairs. She spent her whole life in a house with no air conditioning and a garden she tended on her knees until she was 81. She would have looked around and said, "Who are these people trying to impress?" I set my tote bag on the floor beside my chair and folded my hands on the table. My brother was already smiling. That smile was wide, warm, and a little too deliberate, like he practiced it until it looked natural. His wife sat beside him with her ankles crossed and her hands wrapped around a paper coffee cup. My aunt sat at the end of the table studying her fingernails like she was bored. Across from us sat the attorney, Mr. Hargrove, who had represented my grandmother for more than 20 years. He looked at me with an expression I could not quite read. Careful. Apologetic. My brother slid a document across the table before Mr. Hargrove could say a single word. "Just so we're all on the same page," my brother said. I looked down. 14 pages. Cream paper. Blue cover sheet. Last will and testament of Eleanor Ruth Kavanagh. Executed this 14th day of September. My grandmother died on the 1st of October. 2 weeks later. I picked it up, turned to the signature page, looked at her name written in looping cursive. Then I felt something settle in my chest. Not surprise. Not grief. Something quieter than both. I set the document down and looked at my brother. "Okay," I said. He blinked. He expected tears. He expected an argument. He did not expect okay. "My name is Nadia. I am 31. For the last 3 years of my grandmother's life, from the day she was diagnosed with congestive heart failure to the morning she passed in her own bedroom with her cat on her lap, I was her primary caregiver. I drove her to appointments. I managed her medications. I slept in the guest room twice a week when her breathing got bad. My brother, Marcus, visited 4 times in 3 years. He lived 40 minutes away. He had a wife, 2 kids, and a business he described as doing really well. Even though my grandmother's quiet updates to me made it clear he had borrowed money from her savings. She never told me how much. She always changed the subject. I never pushed, because I thought peace mattered more than numbers. That was my mistake. I work as a document examination specialist. I authenticate handwriting. I detect alterations. I identify forgeries. Most people think that sounds boring. I love it, because every document has a truth inside it, and truth always leaves marks. 2 days after my grandmother died, Marcus called and said, "There's a newer will you should probably know about." I did not cry. I did not yell. I said, "Can you send it to me?" He paused. "I think we should wait until the formal reading." "Sir," I said, "of course." Then I hung up, sat at my kitchen table for a long time, and called Mr. Hargrove. He told me, very carefully, "The will I have on file, the one your grandmother signed in my presence with 2 witnesses, leaves everything to you and Marcus equally, 50-50. I said, "I know." He said, "If your brother has a newer document, it did not come through my office." I said, "I know." Then he asked, "What would you like to do?" Here is a quick question. If your sibling showed up with a surprise will, would you confront them immediately? Or stay quiet and build the case first? Comment yes or no. I stayed quiet. I built the case. 4 days before the reading, I told Marcus calmly that I needed to review the document in advance, or I would bring counsel and request a delay. He sent it reluctantly. A PDF. Slightly crooked. Like it was scanned in a hurry. I printed every page. I got out my magnifier. I made coffee and let it go cold. I went through that document the way I go through every document. Slowly. Page 1 had the first crack. The font for the header was slightly different than the body text, like it had been copied from another template. That alone meant nothing. People use templates. Page 3 had the second crack. A paragraph about revoking all prior wills used a phrasing my grandmother never used. She was plain-spoken. She did not write like a lawyer. She wrote like a woman who labeled her spice jars in block letters. Then I reached the signature page. My grandmother's real signature had 3 consistent traits. Her capital E leaned slightly left. The loop in the second letter was tight. Her final flourish lifted upward, like she was finishing with confidence. This signature leaned right. The loop was open. The final flourish dipped down, like a hand dragging. It was not her. But I needed something better than instinct. Courts do not care about feelings. Courts care about evidence. So I compared it to known exemplars. Birthday cards she signed for me. A check she wrote last summer. A notarized affidavit from when she refinanced the house 5 years earlier. The pressure points did not match. The rhythm did not match. The pen lifts did not match. Then I found the part that made me sit very still. The witness lines. The witness names were printed, not signed. The ink looked uniform. The signature angles were identical. Like the same hand wrote both names. And the notary stamp had a smudge that looked like it had been applied and restamped. As if someone pressed too hard, panicked, and tried again. I called Mr. Hargrove and said, "I believe this document is a forgery." He exhaled like he had been holding his breath for days. "I was afraid you would say that." I asked him one question. Was she physically able to sign a new will in September? He was quiet. Then he said, "Nadia, in mid-September she was on oxygen and heavy medication. She had good moments, but she was not meeting privately with new attorneys." I said, "Then Marcus made this." Mr. Hargrove did not disagree. He said, "If you want to challenge it, we need to do it correctly." So I brought in a probate litigator named Celeste Wynne. Sharp, calm, and allergic to nonsense. We prepared a narrow plan. We would not accuse in the hallway. We would let Marcus present it. We would request the original. We would ask for chain of custody. We would put him under pressure in a room full of professionals. Then we would watch him break. Which brings us back to the Riverview and the leather chairs. Mr. Hargrove cleared his throat. "We are here to review Miss Kavanagh's estate plan." Marcus leaned forward and tapped his forged document. "This is the updated will. It reflects Grandma's final wishes." Celeste's voice was polite. "Mr. Marcus Kavanagh, may we see the original?" Marcus smiled. "This is the original." Celeste nodded once, like she believed him. Then she asked, "Where was it stored?" "In my safe," he said too fast. Celeste turned to Mr. Hargrove. "Was this will ever delivered to your office?" "No," Mr. Hargrove said. "It was not." Marcus's wife shifted in her chair. Celeste looked back at Marcus. "Who drafted it?" "A friend," Marcus said. "A legal friend." Celeste kept her tone soft. "Name?" Marcus hesitated. "I don't remember." Celeste smiled. "Interesting." Then she slid a single sheet across the table to Mr. Hargrove. "It was my preliminary analysis. Signature comparison. Witness irregularities. Notary stamp concerns." Mr. Hargrove read it. His face tightened. Celeste said, "We are requesting an immediate pause. We will not proceed until the document is examined by a certified forensic document examiner, and until the notary and witnesses are verified." Marcus sat back, still smiling, but now it was thinner. "This is ridiculous. Nadia is emotional. She's been living in Grandma's house. She wants everything." That was the line. The pivot. The attempt to turn evidence into personality. I finally spoke. Marcus, you visited 4 times in 3 years. He opened his mouth. I continued. Name her oxygen provider. He blinked. Name her cardiologist. I said. He looked at his wife. You can't, I said quietly, because you weren't there. Mr. Hargrove lifted his gaze. Marcus, I am going to ask you directly. Did you produce this document yourself? Marcus scoffed. But it came out shaky. No. Celeste said. Then you will have no problem providing the notary contact and the witnesses today. Marcus's face changed. He stared at the table like the wood might offer him a new story. My aunt, who had been silent the entire time, suddenly spoke. Marcus, stop. Everyone turned to her. She looked tired. Not sad. Tired. I told you this would happen, she said. Marcus snapped. Not now. Celeste leaned forward slightly. Mr. Hargrove, we formally contest this document. We request the court appoint a neutral examiner, and we request an order to preserve all related communications and files. Mr. Hargrove nodded once. I agree. Marcus stood up fast. You're all acting like I'm a criminal. Celeste did not raise her voice. If it's authentic, it will hold. If it's not, it won't. That is the thing about forged documents. They do not survive light. Before I tell you what the examiner found, be honest. Would you accept a private apology and move on? Or push for the full legal consequences, comment 1 or 2? The process took 3 weeks. The court ordered Marcus to produce the original. He produced a paper copy that had the same scan artifacts as the PDF. That was mistake number 1. You cannot have scan artifacts on an original. The notary number on the stamp traced back to a notary who had reported her stamp missing the previous year. That was mistake number 2. The forensic examiner's report was clinical and brutal. The signature was not my grandmother's. The witness signatures were written by the same person. The document had been assembled from 2 different templates. It was a manufactured will. Marcus tried to claim he was given the document by someone else. The court did not care. He presented it as true. He tried to use it to redirect assets. The judge threw it out and reinstated the valid will on file with Mr. Hargrove. 50-50. Exactly as my grandmother intended. Then the judge looked at Marcus and said something I will never forget. You did not just disrespect your grandmother. You attempted to weaponize the legal system against your own family. Marcus was referred for further investigation. The criminal side moved slower. But it moved. After the hearing, Marcus cornered me in the hallway and hissed, "You didn't have to humiliate me." I looked at him and said, "You humiliated yourself. I just refused to pretend." A month later, I went back to my grandmother's house. I sat on the back steps where she used to shell peas into a metal bowl. The garden was gone quiet for winter. But I could still picture her out there, bent over, patient, pulling weeds one by one. That is what she taught me, without ever saying it. You don't rip the garden up because one weed shows up. You remove the weed. You keep the soil. You protect what matters. If you want more stories where lies show up in ink and get exposed by evidence, hit subscribe.